Now joining me on the Peerless Boilers hotline, former NFL fullback, and now Heath Evans works for the NFL Network. But more importantly, he has a foundation, HeathEvansFoundation.org, which helps families that children have been sexually abused from. And the former fullback joins me right now. Heath, Zach Gelb here, TalkUSA.tv. Thank you for joining me, and how are you?
Man, I'm good. I appreciate you covering this stuff, buddy.
Well, I appreciate for you coming on, and you heard Paterno speak today. What were your interpretation of what Paterno said?
My interpretation is everything else. People just refuse to stand up and take responsibility for their actions. We wonder why we live in the society we live in when, you've got a university as a whole, from the president all the way down to your head football coach, that did literally nothing to protect these young men. And it's a sad, sad day. It's sad that we had to have a national epidemic to bring attention to an epidemic that's already destroying our country. But it is what it is. What
was your initial reaction when you heard the news?
You know what? The abuse never surprises me. We know evil exists, but Einstein said, listen, we live in an evil world, but it's not evil because of evil people. It's evil because of good people that stand by and do nothing. And that's exactly what happened here. We've got some good men that I think ultimately were well-intended, but they royally screwed up. They covered instead of took the appropriate action to help these children out. They stood by their loyalties to a friend, a defensive coordinator, versus the loyalty to kids that didn't have a voice and didn't have anyone to stand up for them. And now it's come back and it's bit them, and it's bit them hard. And this university is going to suffer from it. I think everyone from Grand Spanier, the president, to Tim Curley, the AD, to Schultz, the senior VP, the head coach, needs to be removed immediately, as in 2 days ago. And hey, let's start the healing process for the school, the university, and these poor kids that everyone seems to forget about in this nastiness.
One thing I can't fathom is McQuarrie reported this incident to Joe Paterno, and then Paterno still let Sandusky into the locker room. How does Sandusky, even up to last week, still get in this locker room?
Buddy, I don't know, Zach. But here's the thing: there was charges brought up about Sandusky back in the late '90s, and obviously Joe Paterno knew about those. And so then in 2002, it's brought to his attention again that there's some inappropriate action going on. So let's just say McQuarrie did just say, "Hey, you know what? Hey, this guy was showering naked, and there was another kid in there, and it seemed slightly inappropriate." If that's all he said, that should have been enough to raise red flags in Joe Paterno's mind, where he should have taken the appropriate necessary action at that point in time. And the point blank fact is he didn't. No one in the university did. And now, because of the course of the last 13 years, because no one stood up to Sandusky and no one refused to do the right thing. Now today reports are we've got upwards of 20 kids coming out saying, hey, yes, this pervert did this to me. We started with 8 in the state PA filings, and now we're up to 20. So, listen, this is a roach infestation. People are going to be highly surprised about how deep it goes.
And it's going to keep on increasing. I was hearing Kim Jones, a local reporter here at WFAN in New York, and she said that she expects the number to even jump to possibly 50 kids, which is just sickening even to think about it. But allegedly, Paterno went to Schultz and Curley and told them this. Do you think that's enough on Joe Pa's part to not have anything legal be brought upon him?
Yeah, legally, he's fine, and he's going to be just fine. Legally, he did, I guess,
but morally,
the appropriate chain of command. Morally, he failed. Fail is not even the word. Listen, in my mind, he was an active contribution to the abuse of children, whatever went on there at Penn State University. So however many kids were in the shower with Sandusky, however many kids he brought to practice, all those kids most likely were being abused or being tried to be groomed to be abused by Sandusky, and they were willing participants in the efforts for Sandusky to groom these kids into those habits.
We're talking to Heath Evans of HeathEvansFoundation.org and I'mAVictim.com. And Heath, how much of an outcry do you think we'll hear from the general public if McQuarrie and Paterno are on the sidelines or in the box come Saturday at 12 o'clock against Nebraska?
You know what? As frustrated as I am with McQuarrie, I'll say, too, he took the appropriate action. Would I have done it different? Yes. And should he have done it different? Yes. Should he have said, hey, listen, why is nothing being done? I told you what I saw. This kid was being raped in the shower. How come this guy is still out on campus? How come I'm not hearing his name, in the media? What's going on? That's what a real man would have done. But ultimately, he went to his higher-ups and said, hey, the ball is yours. similar to what Joe Pa did, but Joe Pa was a grown man at the time and should have handled it different. Joe Pa should have been fired days ago. The NCAA should have already stepped in. The NCAA loves to stick their nose in everything. Don't we find it odd that when you're dealing with a subject matter so taboo as sexual abuse, they're waving their white flag saying, oh, we have no precedent for this. Oh, this isn't our jurisdiction. Oh, we don't have bylaws for this. Nonsense. The NCAA is hiding behind the letter of the law instead of the intent of the law. The bylaws, the rules, and regulations of the NCAA were set up to protect kids. Yes, the universities and yes, coaches and everything else, but they were set up to protect, period, the end. And this school has miserably failed in the process of that. And the NCAA should step in and literally, they should shut this program down for years. Allow these kids to transfer with no penalty, help them travel, help them do everything. But listen, Penn State University should not be allowed to financially benefit off this football program that has failed this school so miserably.
Now, let me ask you this. I heard it on a local radio show. Would you accept a donation? Let's say if there's still a possibility that Penn State could get to a Rose Bowl. How about they take all that profits and donate it to the Heath Evans Foundation?
Well, yeah, I'd take it, and then I'd find every single one of those families and say, hey, how in the heck can I possibly repay you for the pain and anguish your child went through? And most of these young men now are probably truly young men. They're probably in their 20s, and maybe even some of them in their 30s. He founded that Second Mile charity back in 1977. So we talk about the number of 50 as a possibility. We know we're at close to 20. What could the number be? You start adding up the decades this guy has potentially been abusing people, it can be sickening. So, listen, obviously we're trying to do great things for the Heath Evans Foundation, but the Heath Evans Foundation is not really the focus here. The focus is these kids, and that we have got to break the chain of silence that is the disturbing effort that continues sexual abuse amongst children. People have got to know what's going on. When they see it, when they hear something, when they even suspect something, they've got to bring it to the attention of the proper authorities, and that's where Penn State, Joe Paterno, Graham Spanner, Tim Curley, Gary Schultz, they all failed and failed miserably, and they need to be punished for it.
We're talking to Heath Evans. And Heath, a few more questions right before we let you run. I know you're busy at the NFL Network. If you could get in a room with Sandusky one-on-one, what would that conversation detail?
You know, this is going to surprise you, Zach, but here's the thing. Hurt people, hurt people. My first question would be, who raped you? Who molested you? Where did your perverse thought and action start? Because the truth of the matter is, if the wounded, if the victims don't get help like our foundation offers, the male persuasion, they almost always, and this is a sad thing, they turn two different ways. The stats show that young males who have been sexually abused either turn towards a homosexual lifestyle, or they end up being predators themselves. It has to be fixed. The females are different. Those stats and those truths don't hold true for the female side of things. But for males, listen, you talk to any shrink, any of the experts out there, they're going to echo the same sentiment. So we've got a huge issue. The man's sick. He needs help, but he needs to be in prison and get the help in prison behind bars where he can't hurt anybody else.
In 50 years, Joe Paterno won't be on this earth. How do you think Paterno's legacy will be perceived in, let's say, 50 years?
Well, let me ask you this. You know, what do you think about when I mention Mike Tyson? Well, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
An incredible fighter.
Yeah. See, for me, I'm different. I think about a guy who lost control and bit a man's ear off in the ring.
That's true.
Probably
a crazy man.
For pound, the best pound-for-pound fighter we've ever seen. But yet, you think about so much negativity when you think about Mike Tyson, which is sad. You know, I think just a great guy, a rough upbringing, and obviously, he suffered from a lot of that upbringing. But ultimately, he accomplished a lot in the ring. But we remember him for, shortcomings that he had. And ultimately, this will tarnish and stain, and rightfully so, Joe Paterno's career. Listen, Rome wasn't built in a day, but he was torn down in a day. And that's just the truth of the matter.
Did you have any problem with the children going outside of Joe Pa's house last night saying, Joe, and the whole We Are Penn State thing?
You know what? I wrote an article for Yahoo Sports today, and it was called Loyalty or Insanity. Every single one of those kids is insane. You know what? I fully understand football being a god. I mean, I played at Auburn. I played in the SEC. I understand the power that college football is. But ultimately, you know what? Those kids, if it was their son, their brother, their daughter, and they could put themselves in the shoes of this man had the ability to protect children and didn't do it, these kids are insane. Every fan, anyone that tweets me, anyone that Facebooks me, that is in support of this man is insane.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I look at Jerry Sandusky as a complete scumbag. What he did, I just can't even fathom it. It's disgusting. It makes me sick to my stomach to even talk about it. But most of the story and the attention is now going towards Joe Paterno. And what he did legally, everything he did was right. But morally, it's so wrong. And it's such a difficult situation to defend this man. I don't really see how anyone else could really even do it.
Well, that's the world we live in. And you know what? The funny thing is we say that he obeyed the proper chain of command, but honestly, who's the president? Who runs Penn State University?
Joe Paterno.
If you look at his release today, you look at the things in there, he says he's basically telling, the Board of Trustees, don't worry about me. I know how to handle this. I'm going to retire at the end of the season. Don't waste another thought on me. There's more important things to deal with. Well, listen, Joe Pa, you're a head football coach. You don't run that university anymore. You screwed up royally. They need to remove him immediately, and I hope out of this Board of Trustees meeting tonight, that's what comes first thing tomorrow. I wish I had a cell phone for Bo Pelini, because you know what? He has an opportunity to be a true man of character himself and just say, hey, you know what? I'm not even putting my men of character on the field as that man standing over there. He stood by and watched kids be hurt and abused, maybe not actually watched, but he knew stuff was going on and refused to do anything about it. These kids need to understand there's something bigger than football, and it needs to be done now, immediately, and the NCAA needs to step in and make an impact and let the punishment fit the crime.
I totally agree. You look at a thing like OSU, Ohio State University this year, they're ready to, they put punishments on that university, they put punishments on Miami, or they're doing those investigations, but they're not even looking into this. It's sickening.
It is truly, truly sickening. But that's the world we live in. That's why the Heath Evans Foundation exists. We're here to help. HeathEvans.org. I'mAVictim.com. We're here for whoever's listening that needs our help.
Tell me a little bit more about that website, because I hope if anyone's listening out there that has been sexually abused, they go to I'mAVictim.com and they get the help that they need.
Yeah, I'mAVictim.com is a website I created specifically for victims, to be able to go there and read other stories of victims that have written their story out on that site, but at the same time take the first step of healing for the victims that do hit that site. They can write out their stories, get the weight of the world off their chest, and that truly is. My wife would tell them the first step to healing is just getting honest and being able to deliver your story. And so we're trying to help make it easy by people can just kind of blog it out on I'mAVictim.com. The main site for the Heath Evans Foundation is just HeathEvans.org. If you forget .org or my name, you know what? Just search sexual abuse, and it will be one of the first things that pops up.
Heath, thanks so much. I appreciate it, and keep up the good work.
Thanks, buddy.
Heath Evans there joining us on the Peerless Boilers Hotline. Peerless builds America's best boilers. We'll take a quick break, and we'll be back right after this.